in the presentation. So we're really looking forward to welcoming everybody.
I know, as soon as everything is reopened.
Oh, we're just counting the days. Unfortunately, we've no dates yet, but we're hoping it's very soon.
Yeah.
Siobhan, I believe we're live and we're ready.
Fantastic. So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, we're going off the beaten track. We're going to visit some places that you haven't been to before, and lots of interesting things that you can include on your itineraries in Ireland and the UK. So I think we'll go over to Pamela immediately and you can tell us all about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Siobhan. And I think we're going to play you a little clip just to give you an introduction before we do our presentation. So Gio, I'll let
Pamela, I also accidentally turned off your video, so could you turn that back on? It's just in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay, that's us.
And I'm just going to start. It's just a short little video. Hope everyone can see okay. Pamela will be talking about some alpacas.
So these are just some of our herd. You have Midnight there's rolling in the grass, enjoying the sunshine. And we've got handsome Hugo, our little tan alpaca. And he's such a cutie. He's our male model. He does weddings for us. He does all sorts of nice beach treks. They're very cute animals. So hopefully the videos, it'll pan round. You'll see some more. We're just you'll see the mountains of Mourne in the background. So Cranfield is in the very bottom tip of Northern Ireland. So we sit on the border with Ireland, and we're in a hidden gem. We're kind of in a little cul-de-sac that's very undiscovered. We have two ancient kingdoms in Ireland. We have the Kingdom of Kerry and the Kingdom of Mourne, and we're down in the very Kingdom of Mourne. So Gio, if I can ask you to put up the first slide for me.
Yes, just before I go, I'm just going to show everyone a little map. So hold on, because of the locations we'll be visiting today.
Yeah, and it's so handy to get the maps to get a sense of place.
So we're starting out with Pamela here in Northern Ireland, as we said. And there we are. Then we'll be going over to the BLACKSTAIRS Eco Centre, and then on to the BURREN Perfumery. Those are the Irish locations we're going to, and then I'll have a map for Scotland later, but here's where you are located.
Okay.
In the little tip of Northern Ireland, and I'll get your presentation up now.
And just whilst you're just doing that, the other thing to bear in mind is that a lot of planes arrive in early into Dublin Airport. And there's nothing better than having something interesting to do to keep people, the energy level still going when you get off that plane. And especially if a lot of people, when they come into Ireland, they tend to do a clockwise direction. And there's no reason why you can't do an anti-clockwise direction. And therefore, you start moving as soon as you come in. And Pamela, I know some people regard Dublin almost as being the second international airport in Northern Ireland, don't they? It's so close.
Absolutely. And we would use Dublin because it's closest to us. It's very, very handy. We're just over an hour away from Dublin Airport.
Brilliant.
Okay. So as you can see from the background, this is us down on the beach. We're in a stunning location. We are just at the mouth of Carningford Lough, and that's Carningford Lough to the left, and we have the Mourne Mountains and the Cooley Mountains. And I'd like to introduce you. This is handsome Humphrey on the left, and we've little cutie Cisco in the middle, and that's Coco, and that's my husband Peter and myself. How did we get into alpacas? Well, it's a bit of a story. We were on the rat race. I was a chief executive and my husband was a hotelier, and we decided we'd step off the wheel and do something different. And one day we were at home and we were heading to Belfast for a little retail therapy, and my husband said to me, oh, he says, pack your wellies. Now, my husband's from Belfast and he's not a farmer or any connection. So it was a bit of an unusual story. And I said, right, why do we need wellies? He said, we're going to go and look at alpacas. And I was like, okay. So as you do, ladies, you humor them and you say, all right, that's fine. We'll drop in and see the alpacas. and we came home with 11. Now, anyone who's joining us today will know that alpacas originate from South America, and they came to Ireland in the 1990s. So they're a fairly recent addition to Ireland. They're primarily farmed for their fleece. Their fleece has lots of wonderful properties. It's hyperallergenic. It's super insulating, very warm. I mean, an alpaca jumper will cost you about £300. It doesn't wear out, and the creatures themselves are just gorgeous. You'll fall in love with them. I do warn you, when you come to meet them, they've got great personalities, and we do a whole range of different experiences with them. So if we move on, Gio, to the second slide. One of our most popular activities is going for a beach trek. So it lasts about 90 minutes, and we pair you up with your alpaca. Here we've got Coco and Midnight, who always lead the walks. And you meet your alpaca, and then we go down beautiful country lanes, really relaxing, very good for your well-being and mental health. And I think we all need that at the moment with lockdown. And we stroll down to the beach, and then we go across the Golden Sands. We point out lots of special things that will be of interest to you. In the area we have a lot of Viking ballast on the beach. So as the Vikings sailed down the Irish Sea and then they wanted to attack up Carlingford Lough, then they threw their ballast out over the side of the boat, and therefore it's all littered along our beaches. We point that out to you. And for those are joining us today who are American or Canadian, we had the second largest American air base during World War II, and we had General Patton and General Eisenhower came to address the troops in the run-up to D-Day. So there's lots of history, with lots of local stories and legends, and we then walk back to base, and then we introduce you back to the rest of the herd, and you get a chance to relax and feed them and interact with them, and we introduce them all to you. And you get some refreshments. So Gio, if you just move on to our next slide. And Gio had very kindly put up the map. So as we're saying, we're just on the East Coast. We're kind of equidistant between Dublin Airport and Belfast. So if you're heading, as Siobhan said, heading up to maybe head towards Belfast and do Titanic, we're an ideal stop off. We would say, if you just scroll down a little bit more for me, you'll just see the castle and the ferry. So if you're coming across, there's Carlingford. Carlingford is a medieval village in County Louth, and you can then take the ferry that sails across to Greencastle on our side of and a beautiful way to cross the loch. The loch was called Carlingfjord because it reminded the Vikings of home, because we have the steep mountains on both sides and the water. And then you land right in the shadow of the castle. This is the 13th century Greencastle Castle, and it is Prince Harry and Meghan's ancestral home. They are Baron and Baroness Kilkeel if they ever come back to Ireland, which I very much doubt at this stage. We have lots of other attractions. We have Royal County Down, which is the #1 golf course periodically, I think, between it and some of the Scottish golf courses. So it's 20 minutes down the road. We have whiskey distilleries, we have chocolate factories, and we have the mountains, which everybody loves. So everybody's looking to get out and away from the crowd. So it's a perfect little gem. And as I said, we're an ancient kingdom. So we're very much bordered by the Irish Sea, Carlingford Lough, and then the Mourne Mountains. And as we pan down, this will just give you a few pictures. So we do meet and mingle experiences. So you can come along with the family or yourself and independent travelers. We bring all ages. Everybody falls in love with the alpacas, even those who have maybe brought along and this is not their primary thing they want to do. So we've got lovely picnic benches where you relax and you can feed the alpacas as they come in round you. Great selfies, great pictures. We tell you all about them, their history, about their fleece, where they come from. Their fleece was worth more than gold originally in South America, and even to this day their fleece is worth a lot more. And people use them here in Ireland. We have sheep flocks, and this is spring and this is lambing season. If you put 2 alpacas in with your sheep, they keep away the foxes and protect the lambs. So they're very, very beautiful animals. They're very funny. They're great company, and we've lots of very great characters within the herd. And we do meet and mingle experiences that last about 45 minutes. We do our beach treks. If we've very young children, they want to walk the alpacas, we can take them around the paddocks on our land, and you can do that as well. This year we're introducing some special events. We're doing a summer sundowner, and it will be, you can sit and relax, take in the views, watch the fantastic sunsets, and enjoy a glass of bubbly and some strawberries and cream. And here the boys are. So it's very misty, it's very atmospheric, we have super views, and we just really looking forward to seeing you all very, very soon. And we find lots of people, as you say, Siobhan, call and see us either on their way to the airport or maybe on their way home.
Just can you, thanks a million for that. And before we leave you, can you give me the name of that castle again? That is in theory, the ancestral home of Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, it's Greencastle Castle. It's a 13th century castle, and it was also connected to Maid Marian from Robin Hood.
Oh, wow. So Greencastle as in the colour, yeah?
Yeah.
Greencastle.
Castle.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'll just put that there in the chat box as well. And yes, there's lots of chocolate factories that you can tour. It can always be built into an itinerary. One other thing as well, people can actually access you, can they, by the Newtownards Peninsula with the boat?
No, we're on the Carlingford Loch. We're in the loch south of that. Strangford, slightly further up the coast.
And then the other thing to bear in mind is the tagline that you had there, where the mountains of Mourne sweep down to the sea. So a lot of people know that from Danny Boy. So that's brilliant. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Tanaji, Ivana?
I think we're
going to Mary White.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hello there. Welcome to BLACKSTAIRS Eco Centre here in South Carlow. We're about an hour from Dublin, less than an hour from the Rosslare Ferry, and very close to Waterford, and half an hour from Kilkenny. So we're, like many of your people today, we're very rural. It's a magnificent little county, Carlow. It's the second smallest county in Ireland. Louth is the wee county, and then we're the second smallest county. We have beautiful rivers, wonderful mountains, and we don't have any lakes, even though the Irish name for Carlow is Caherlucha, 4 lakes. So we must have a sense of humor somewhere, because there are no lakes in Carlow, but our wonderful BLACKSTAIRS mountains. And if you wonder how I got into foraging and telling stories of our Celtic forebears with our Celtic trees, I'm a botanist and an ecologist, and my mother was a botanist and zoologist, and we were homeschooled as children. And so we ran wild in County Wicklow, which is up near, just outside Dublin. And I went to Trinity College and took the scenic route to foraging. I'm a former Irish government member of parliament and former Minister of Human Rights and Integration. But there was enough wildlife in the Irish Parliament, and I decided to get back to the real wildlife and run this small ecotourism business in Carlow. So if we could have the first slide, please, and just to show people where we are. And this is Mount Leinster, and I'm looking at this view as I speak to you now. If I turn my head right, I can look out at that view. And that's Mount Leinster and the lovely rolling hills. The BLACKSTAIRS aren't the Alps. They're lovely, small, gentle hills, and we hike in them and we go foraging with them. And we also do a lot of foraging on our own land. We're very lucky that our land has had no fertilizers or no chemicals on it for over 40 years. And we have put a lot of investment in time and effort to bring back the health of the soil. So everything that people come to for foraging, the wild safe food, is very clean, very healthy, free from pesticides and free from artificial fertilizers in any form. So we could go to the second slide, and you'll see a group of people who have come for a workshop here. And we're under a big beech tree, and it's summer, and we make a lovely beech leaf gin, which is absolutely delicious. And our guests in summer learn how to make this, and it's very, very easy. You pick these tiny little green leaves that you see in the photograph, and you pack them into an earthenware jar and fill it up with gin. And it needn't be your best gin, any gin will do. And that wonderful delicate green color that you see on the leaves, after about 4 weeks, the gin takes on that color. And when you pour your drink, you've got this lovely luminous green. And with a nice chunk of ice and a slice of lime or lemon, you have this wonderfully naturally fermented drink. So we make that in summer, but only in the first few weeks when the leaves are so soft and you can see the little white hairs around each leaf. And in fact, you can eat the leaves. They're very nice on salads. So that's what we do. This is a group here. I run the Eco Centre with my daughter, Dorothy Ellen, and my husband, Robert. So if we could have the second slide just to show a little close-up of what we do. We work a lot with Irish chefs, and our Irish chefs create the most wonderful menus and recipes and delicious food for us to eat. But they don't know the secrets of the wild food plants. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. So we train the chefs to know what is really delicious, whether it's birch twig soup with chanterelle mushrooms, or in this picture here, we're going to make rowan berry schnapps. Now, it's not all alcohol we do. We also make lovely ice creams from gorse flowers, and we make rose petal ice cream. And our guests go out with their baskets and they pick the wild things. They come back and then they make them into either sorbets or ice cream or pestos or soups or whatever it happens to be in season. And they get to enjoy them for over a 3-course lunch and get to take away what they've actually made as well. So it's a nice afternoon or a full day, depending what time people have. And the seasons are so ever-changing here in Ireland. We have a lovely light spring weather now, and then we move on to later spring and then into the summer season, which is lovely for salads and leaves and flowers. And then we move into the autumn with wonderful wild fungi and berries and nuts. So for us, we're working in the wild from March until the end of November. So it's a lovely, lovely season. We're looking at here in, this is the rowan berry schnapps with the red berries. And then on my hand there, the little black seeds known as Alexander seeds. And they are much nicer than black pepper. They come from a plant called Alexander's, which Alexander the Great brought over in his travels, and soldiers carried the seeds in the top of their boots. And when they emptied their boots out at night, some of these seeds came to us. So Alexander's makes a magnificent pepper. And also artisan chocolate makers have asked us to provide them with the seed because it's delicious in chocolate as well. The next slide, please, if you wouldn't mind. So that's our foraging event. And then we do these Celtic tree trails where we tell our guests about the incredible noble trees that our ancestors, the Celts, worshipped. And they worshipped the trees because of the fruits that they gave them, the wood that they could make their shelters from, or the gifts that they might use from the leaves or the twigs or the fruits, as I said before. And this here is an oak, and the Irish for oak is dar. I speak Irish myself, and it's nice to have the Irish name on an Irish tree. And the oak was known as the king of the forest because it is the biggest tree of all. It can grow to almost 1,000 years. And an old saying in Ireland is, and when we take our guests on our Celtic tree trail, we say the oak has 300 years of growing, 300 years a living, and 300 years a dying. And in the little cracks of the tree is what I'm showing people here in this photograph, in the little cracks of the tree in the bark, up to 500 different types of insects and earwigs and spiders and little beetles can live in the cracks of the bark. And overhead then in the canopy of the tree, the birds make their nests. So the oak was one of 7 noble trees that our forebears worshipped. There's the oak, the ash, the holly, the hazel, the Scots pine, which is an Irish tree, even though it has a Scots name, and the crab apple or wild apple. And when we go on our Celtic tree trail, we first of all show a 16-minute film, which we commissioned with the help of Fórte Ireland. And we tell the story of the Celts and the trees, and then we go out to meet the trees. And each tree then has a gift behind the trunk of the tree for our guests. And it might be some little gift of, say, early cider from the crabapple, and we'll see a photograph of that in a minute. Or it might be something that we've made from a little hazel tree, or a little tiny little calico bag of hazelnuts, which you can grind up and put on your porridge or your muesli in the morning. So the trees give our guests a little gift at the end of the tour. And we also come back to a traditional Irish afternoon tea. So it's a nice, unusual thing to do in the wilds of South Carlow, meeting these noble trees, which are so special in the lives of our forebears. So if we could have the next slide, please. And you might think, why am I putting up a photograph of 3 lovely apples? But these are very special apples. These are the wild apples of our Celtic forebears. And they are the oldest type of apples, and all apples in the world come from these early Irish apples. And they are amazingly bitter and tart. And you can make, the Celts used to make an early form of cider from them. A lot of people now make crabapple jelly, which has a most beautiful rose color. And we make it at some of our foraging workshops, but also for our Celtic tree trails. We tell people that the Celts worship this tree because it was a great source, an early source of alcohol. And that's why they worshipped it as one of the 7 noble trees. So that's why those 3 apples are there, and they're very, very special. If we could have the next slide, please, that would be nice. Now, this big tree in the middle is an oak tree, like the one I had my hand on earlier. And you can see how it's towering over the other trees, and they're quite tall. And this tree is about 700 years old. And you can measure the girth or the bole of the tree. And we have some very good wood people who can actually date some of these trees for us. But it's sitting here in this wildflower meadow. And this wildflower meadow, the flowers have just gone off it in this photograph now, but it's a sea of cornflowers and ragged robin and beautiful poppies. And it's just lovely to lie down in the grass and look up at that blue sky. And we do get nice weather now and again in our summers. And this beautiful tree, and to think what that tree has seen over the last 500 or 600 years, when there were no roads and no internet and no webinars and no Zoom conferences. This tree was there growing and spreading its branches out. And if it could tell a story, it would be a mighty story. So it's one of our oldest trees on our land, and we're delighted that it survived many a storm. And we have a lovely granite circle right around it, and people come and they sit at it and they feel the power and the energy of the tree, and particularly this oak, which is king of the forests. So, and it was a lovely day when we took that photograph. The last slide I have is a slide of our Ogham stone, which we got specially commissioned. And Ogham is a special Celtic language of our Celtic forebears. And we got a sculptor called Martin Little to sculpt that. And each of these little grooves on that stone is a name of a tree. And these are the 7 noble trees on one side. And then on the other side, we have the commoners, the lower divisions of the wood, and bushes of the wood. And the Celts always wrote on the side of these granite stones. We don't know why. And you read the stone from the bottom up. So you start at the bottom up. If you were writing your name, you'd start at your name. If I was starting with Mary, the M would be at the bottom, and then you'd move up the alphabet. So all corners of this lovely stone have these 21 incredible trees, which are celebrated in music and verse and poems and prose in our Irish history. And it's lovely to touch the grooves, and you can feel the little granite grooves. And granite is the natural stone here in the southeast of Ireland. And once you have seen our film and come out and see the stone in the oak wood, then we go and meet the trees, and the trees tell their story to you. So it's a nice rural, unusual thing for guests to do in a very safe, sustainable environment in South County Carlow. So I'm happy to take questions anytime, either now or afterwards, whatever Siobhan would like. Thank you very much.
You're on mute, Siobhan.
I actually didn't know that the rowan wasn't one of the sacred trees, because my son is a permaculture farmer and he named his son Rowan. And I always assumed.
Yeah, the seven nobles, the rowan is one of the commoners. It's still very much valued as a tree, but the seven nobles are the oak, the ash, the holly, the hazel, the Scots pine, and the crabapple. And then we have the willow and the rowan, and all sorts of other trees as well, furze bushes and guelder rose. And they all have a tale to tell. And as the great poet Robin Hood used to say, dreaming out their stories to the wind. And these trees do dream out their stories to the wind. And we try and tell those stories to our guests. And people feel an irresistible urge to touch some of the bigger trees and even give them a hug. And there's a great new development now, forest bathing, where people feel that their well-being and the energy of being in a forest helps them to calm down in our busy lives, and particularly in our lockdown lives now. People are craving the outdoor space and getting away from crowds.
And we do still have those ancient woods, don't we? Because I know I visited some myself.
Absolutely, and they're wonderful in many of the old Irish estates, and we have one here in our little town of Burres. These ancient trees, where I was talking about the oak can get up to 900 years, and the Scots pine can get to several hundred years. But these trees have such immense longevity, and they're so beautiful to look at with their arching branches, and the Scots pine with its almost blue needles. And when the rain comes in Ireland, the trunk gets this lovely burnished red color, which is just gorgeous at sunrise or sunset. So these ancient woods, these native woodlands, which are absolutely wonderful, not that many of them in Ireland, these very old woods, but they have their secrets, and we love to tell people their secrets.
And Mary, can I ask you, how long do you think someone should spend when they're visiting Ireland with you? I know normally they collect stuff and you prepare a meal or a soup or salad. So what's the optimum time, you think, to get a true feel for it and a true appreciation?
Well, definitely you'd want 2 hours for the Celtic Tree Trail, because by the time you have your 60-minute film, and then we go out to the Ogham Stone, and people like to write their name in Ogham, and we give them the little alphabet to go home with, and a nice postcard as well with the Ogham on it. And then we walk around the trees. So about 2 hours for the Celtic Tree Trail, and 2.5 hours for the foraging, as long as people want. But you'd need certainly 2 hours for both events to get the benefit of it and not to rush the experience, because it's all about slow tourism. We're not in a rush, and we hope our guests aren't in a rush either.
Fantastic. So if there's any other questions, if people want to put them in the chat box, and or if not, you can ask at the end. So thanks a million, Mary, for that, and it's lovely to see you again.
And you, thank you very much indeed. Great to chat to you.
Thanks a million. So now, Sadie, we're off to the Burren.
Hello. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's lovely to meet you. My name is Sadie Chowin, and I'm the owner and creative director of the BURREN Perfumery, and I have been for 20 years at this stage. So we're in the heart of the Burren. So again, it's another area of Ireland which is almost like a secret place. It's very off the beaten track. The roads are tiny, but it's certainly worthwhile when you get here. And we also are surrounded by trees. It's not quite a forest, but we have all the hazel and the elms. It's like a little oasis here. So what we do here is, as you can see behind me, we make perfumes. So I think we're the only perfume house in Ireland to actually still make everything on site. And we're also the oldest perfume house. So we work with a staff of about 35 people, and we make everything by hand. So all the soaps and the candles and the lotions and the perfumes and everything you can imagine. So I'll take you through some of the slides, and then as we go, we can have a chat about where we are and what we do. Here. So here you see the, so the perfumery itself is about 200 years old. It used to be a farmhouse, and in fact one day I was walking around the courtyard. The little workshops are off the courtyard, and I was walking around the courtyard and I saw a very tall farmer looking man who looked very out of place. And I went up to him and I said, can I help you? And he said, I used to own this, and it was just us and the cows. And he said, look at it now. It's, you know, it's amazing. So that was very nice to meet the original owner. So we have all these little workshops. And as I said, the perfumery was established in 1972. So next year it will be our 50th anniversary. I've owned it for about 20 years. And so really we're busy just making everything on site. So it's a mixture between a working factory and a visitor centre. We welcome many, many people here every year. Some people just come and they maybe spend maybe 2 to 3 hours wandering around. And then other people come on personalised tours and they learn to make something. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll show you a little bit of the landscape. So here you see, this is in the background, this is the BURREN. So this is literally a few meters from where I'm standing now. It's outside our back door. This is myself, and then my husband who runs the company with us. He used to run an IT company, helpfully for me, and he kindly left his job about 18 years ago. And as he said, 1/3 of the wages and 3 times the hours, but he's still here. This is our little daughter, Celeste. So the landscape is absolutely stunning. And a lot of stone walls. It's a limestone area. So if we go on to the next slide, you'll be able to see it. So we're located in County Clare, which is on the west coast. So we're just off the Wild Atlantic Way, but it's quite wild. We're 2.5 hours from Dublin Airport. We're an hour from Shannon Airport, and we're 45 minutes from the cliffs of Moher. So it's a very beautiful area of Ireland. It's about 10 miles by 10 miles. It has 70% of Ireland's flowers, which is one of the reasons that the perfumery was established here. And again, if we go on to the next slide, we'll be able to see it in more detail. So here you see the limestone formations. It's a wealth of flowers. So it looks a little austere with all the stone and the walls. It's quite lunar. But if you just bend down, just look down, it's full of orchids and gentians, and there's so many flowers here in the summer. So as the perfumer, I am very much inspired by the landscape and the flowers. So all the perfumes that I formulate and that I create are based originally on smells that come from here. So this is the wild fragrant orchid that you see here, which is one of my favorite smells. It's a tiny little orchid that's here in July. And if you bend down and smell it, it's got a wonderfully warm, exotic smell. It's just amazing. So the Ilan perfume that you see on the right, that's the perfume which is the top note on that is the wild fragrant orchid. And then I would include other notes in it, like the meadowsweet and lady's bedstraw and other meadow flowers. So really what I like doing is everything that we make here is natural and mostly organic. And so what I like doing here is creating things based on the flora here, and there's different smells here at different time of year. So they're quite mellow and they're quite natural. Here, I don't know if you can still see me, but we have the new wild rose, which again is based on the wild Burnett rose. Yeah. So this is my latest perfume, which is certified 100% natural and organic. It took 3 years. So when you come here, I think it's like you're included in the experience. We have 35 staff, and somebody will take you around if that's what you want, or you can wander around yourself, and you'll just be able to see the different types of manufacturing that we do by hand. So we can go on to the next slide now. Yeah, here we go. So I think part of the experience for me of coming to Ireland, especially to a remote area, is to meet people. So what we try and do with the staff is to make sure that they have time. They're all local ladies. This is Kate, who is our soap maker, and some of our staff have worked for us for 20 years since I've been here. And we try and make sure that they have time to talk to people and chat to them and explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, and where they come from, and just give people an introduction to the area. Kate's making soaps, so all these soaps are made from natural oils, and they're then cut in small batches, and there she is hand wrapping. So we make and sell thousands of the soaps from here. And part of her job is hand wrapping, which is harder than it looks. You can have a go if you come here. Yeah, so if you move on again. So I'm just what to expect. So first of all, we give all our guests a very warm welcome. We love meeting people, and in fact, we're really looking forward to having a date soon about when people can come. And as I said, you can come down the Little Rose and you can come down the tract of Perfumery, and you can either come and not go on a tour, and you can come into we have a 10-minute film, which is very beautiful. It's about the flowers and about the area, which is free. We have the tea rooms, which is absolutely not to be missed, where we make everything ourselves on site. So all the cakes, all the teas, the herbal teas, the coffee, the soups. And we also have a herb garden, which I established. I actually planted myself. It was one of my first jobs when I came here about 18 years ago. And in it, we grow all the plants like the comfrey and the meadowsweet and everything that we use in the products, because we also do organic face creams and body lotions. So we give tours around the garden to explain to people what plants we use. I'm a great believer in that the plants, what you put on your skin is very much the same as what you put in your food. And then we go behind the scenes with the makers, and you learn how to make soap, or you would learn how to make we talk a little bit about the perfumes. I think it's really nice to smell oils to get a real experience. So we do little workshops. We can have either a private tour of the perfumery or an art of perfume tour, where we look at all the different oils that might go into one of the perfumes. The perfume would have about 50 different oils in it. And just whatever your area of interest in, just bring you a bit nearer to what that product is made from. We also offer a private perfume making experience. So that's a bookable experience for a small group. And either myself or one of my senior manufacturing staff would take you step by step and make a perfume a bespoke perfume that you will enjoy and that corresponds to your wishes. And it's an exploration really of your sense of smell. And generally we say that lasts 2 hours, and generally it lasts more like 3. But it's a wonderful thing to do. It's very, very personal. So because the premises here is very beautiful and it's quite small and it's in the heart of nature, we don't take large coaches and we keep the groups very small. So when you come, there will never be too many people here. And we just make sure that it's a very individual experience and that you can personalize your experience. So we hope you'll come and visit us, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks a million, Sadie. That was fantastic. So for people who are watching, you can see how there's great synergy almost between, including Mary and Sadie in the itinerary. To get a sense of place again, those of you that know Gregan's Castle will be quite close. Other properties that would be perfect to do this as a visit from would be Dromoland, Adair, Doonbeg. I'm trying to think of others. Ballyportry, which is the property we had on the Haunted webinar, but also possibly even Glencastle, places like that. So, and it has the area has its own little ecosystem sort of going as well, with unusual flora and fauna, and there's lots of good local guides for walks. So you can make a good day trip to the Burren and to visit the perfumery. I don't see any questions coming in yet, Sadie. But I know from my experience with my friend, when her daughters went there, they adored it. And often it's very hard to please young ladies, in their sort of preteens or teens. They do, they really enjoy it because there is a lot of varied fragrances, aren't there?
Yes, and the other thing that I think is interesting is that I give quite a lot of perfume talks, and men really enjoy it as well. So even if when they come in, they don't think they're going to enjoy it, they actually get really interested in the technical side of it and their sense of smell, and they get really engaged. So it's not just something for women. The men actually really enjoy it. Yeah.
No, it's lovely, and everyone talks about it when they visit. The feedback is amazingly positive, which is lovely, and it's great to see that you do the home baked food as well, so they can have a good day there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And often we do get guests from Dromoland or from Adair. We actually do the VIP boxes in Dromoland, the products for Dromoland Castle for the VIP suites. And they often send us guests, And so they'll come, it means that you can get to drive through the Burren, and then you can come here for lunch, and then you can have a tour, and you can go into the garden, and then you can go home, and that's a fantastic day out. There are a lot of other really nice attractions nearby, but it makes the whole experience.
Yeah. And just two questions that came in there. And one was, do you make cologne or aftershave for men? And the other was, do you use essential oils in addition to the local burn flowers?
So yes to both. We certainly do make eau de toilettes or eau de colognes for men. We have Arran, and we also have Winterwoods, and Spring Harvest can be for men as well. But I think Arran would be probably as a very fresh citrus cologne. Yeah, we have many men. We have many men clients, and yes, we use essential oils from all over the world, as well as plants that come from here. So at the moment, I'm working, the new series is I go to grass a lot, because as a perfumer, I'm constantly expanding my palette. It's a bit like being an artist and using.
And do you have one of those famous noses?
I am the nose.
Yeah, okay.
But I also work with a nose in grass, Marianne, and she, if you go on our Instagram feed, you'll see photographs of of me working with her for our latest perfume. And so I go down there, and so the latest range of perfumes is very much including ingredients that I've harvested and picked in grass, like the May rose and the orange flower. So to begin to broaden the palette away from just the burren flowers, yeah.
Fantastic. And then just the last question, do you sell online, and is it possible to buy the products in Canada?
Yes, we absolutely sell online. And in the last year, during the lockdown, I have to say our mail order, our online increased 91%. So that was a huge bonus for us, because it allowed us to. We still have 10 people working here. As I can see them, actually, as I speak, I can see them running around the courtyard, making, with different kind of things. So yes, we definitely do online, and we definitely ship to Canada. So
and I'm assuming the website
over 70 euros. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'm assuming the website is burrenperfumery.com for the shipping, is it?
It is, yeah.
Brilliant.
And if you have any questions, just email us on info@burrenperfumery.com.
Perfect. And then just, it's very funny, because whenever I'm talking about the Cliffs of Moher, I always say that if I could capture the smell of a smokehouse and bottle it, I'd wear it. Yeah. But it's funny, because I won't be able to say that now going forward. Thank you very much, Sadie. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. So, Gio, we're now going over to Scotland. And by the way, I also have to thank Amanda Zinman in our office, who put all of this together for us today. So big thank you to Amanda.
Great. We're going to go to Scotland. Catty couldn't be here with us today, so we're just going to start with the video. But just before I show the video, I'm just going to show the map again.
And just whilst you're showing the map, if you all remember Fife Arms, because we adore the Fife Arms Hotel, and she's located right in that area as well. And another property that we would sell a lot would be Candy Craig, which again is in that area as well.
Yes, so we'll be looking at, we'll be seeing a video now from BRAEMAR and Cairngorms, which is this area here. And then after that, we'll be going over to GLENAPP, which is the castle down here. And we were saying before, it's so close to Northern Ireland.
As Jill said, it's closer to Ireland than it is to Edinburgh.
Yes, so we're just going to show the video first, and then we'll have Jill after this one.
Hi, my name's Katie Fenema, and alongside my husband Julian, we run BRAEMAR Highland Experience. BRAEMAR really is into the wild. It's nestled in the Cairngorms National Park, which is our largest national park in the UK, home to 4 of the 5 highest mountains in the UK. And one of the really special things about these mountains is that they're really quite remote, so you will have quite a long walk to get to them, but wow, the views from the top are really stunning. We offer 2 different routes to exploring this landscape, and we are either in our vehicles, both off-road and on-road, or we're walking. And one of the wonderful things about BRAEMAR really is the variety of habitats that we have. we can be starting the day in a Caledonian pine forest with lots of red squirrels scampering around and the odd capercaillie, which is an extraordinary bird if you're lucky. And then moving on to slightly higher ground where we've got some beautiful lochs to explore, and higher still onto our mountains. So the variety of habitats is something that tremendously excites us in this area. We often see golden eagles flying overhead. We nearly always see red deer on our hills, and it's a real privilege to share the area with them. We also share a special area about an hour from here, very close to Glenlivet, which is of course whisky country. And there we enjoy taking our clients to meet the only free-ranging herd of reindeer in the UK. There's something incredibly special being able to join that herd and to walk with them, to give them their breakfast. And that is one of our favourite Into the Wild experiences that we offer. Next door neighbours to the reindeer are a sheep farm that provide sheepdog demonstrations and show all of the rewilding that they're doing in this area. And it's a lovely contrast to the reindeer that our clients see earlier in the day. I really hope you can join us here in Braemar in the not too distant future. We've tremendously missed you. We're tremendously excited about getting back up and running again and introducing you to this extraordinary area.
Remember this time to mute myself. So Braemar, as I mentioned before, beside Fife and the other properties, but also it's where the Highland Games are held, and the Queen usually visits as well, because she's normally ensconced at that time in Balmoral Castle. So Giovanna, are we ready to go over to Jill in GLENAPP?
Yes, Jill. You're on mute, Jill.
Is that me okay now?
Perfect.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you all. What fascinating presentations and what wonderful places we have in the UK and Ireland. We're actually trying to create a scent for GLENAPP at the moment, Sadie, so perhaps we should be connecting on something there. But I'm not here to talk about scents at GLENAPP today. We're here to talk about how does GLENAPP fit into the wilderness, because we may be in a remote location, but we're not really in the wilderness, not quite. But we do have a specific product, an offering which we created a couple of years ago called the HEBRIDEAN Sea Safari, which really takes your customers out into the wild for an amazing experience. To explain that, I hope you forgive me, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the castle, just because the castle is combined with the Sea Safari. So if Jill, could you perhaps ping me onto the first slide? It may be the location one, the next slide. So again, just to reiterate that our location, oops, we're on the southwest coast of Scotland. And as we've mentioned already, we are actually closer to Ireland than we are to Edinburgh. We're about 90 minutes south of Glasgow International Airport, but right on the coastline in southwest Scotland there. If you could put the next slide on, Gio, please. And here we have, just to give you an insight into the castle, because the Hebridean Sea Safari that we have put together, we have given you a suggestion of a 4-night, 5-day adventure. A couple of nights at the castle, and then you jump onto the GLENAPP boat and we whisk you away out to sea to explore the Scottish Islands. But before doing that, you have the enjoyment of GLENAPP Castle, and you can see here's some of the images. We're Aurelian Chateau Hotel. We have been since the year 2000, so fine food and delicious wines are in our DNA. And when the castle changed ownership about 5 years ago, the new owner, as well as buying the castle, he bought a boat. And at that point, the idea of this Hebridean Sea Safari was created. If you could pop into the next slide, Gio, please. just to give you an indication of some of the accommodation in the castle before we take you to completely alternative accommodation on the sea safari. Here's some images of our bedrooms. We just have 17 bedrooms, so we're very small, petite, perfectly formed. All the bedrooms are completely unique and individual. And when it comes to the sea safari, guests are accommodated in our superior bedrooms for a couple of nights, where they can really relax, kick back and enjoy everything that GLENAPP offers. In addition to just having the wonderful accommodation and the fabulous food, we also have a programme of about 65 different experiences and activities, many of which dovetail really quite nicely into a wilderness type of experience. We have fabulous stargazing in the winter. We're situated right next door to one of Europe's dark sky parks. So we have amazing stargazing throughout the winter months. We can do foraging, as I think Mary mentioned earlier on. We do forest bathing as well with a local lady who comes along, very popular activity. We've got canoeing, we've got the kayaking, we've got coasteering. For those of us with a good pelvic floor, we've got stand-up paddle boarding as well. So we can really take people out into the wilds with a lot of different activities as well. Maybe just ping on to the next slide, Gio, please. I can't remember what's coming up now. Is this popping onto the video now?
Yes, just the apartment, I think, first.
Oh, okay. So just a little bit of plug here for something that's completely hot news off the press. We are opening next month the first ever castle penthouse apartment in Scotland. The castle image behind me, the whole top floor of that was the previous owner's family home. I'll have to duck so you can see it. And it's for the last 2 years, we have been developing that into what will become this penthouse apartment. The photographer's booked in for next week. We've got the opening as soon as GLENAPP is allowed to reopen, which is the 17th of May. And it will encompass, it's about 4,500 square feet of this real luxury space. Top floor of the castle, amazing views all around. It will sleep 4 people, no it won't, it will sleep 8 people in 4 bedrooms, all with private bath, of course. But in addition to that, it has its own cinema and media room. It has its own sauna, massage room, beauty room, library, games room, private dining for up to 16, comes with its own private chef, private butler as well. And it has its own private access elevator lift up to the apartment, which when we started the idea of this, that wasn't important, but in a post-COVID world, this is actually the self-containment of the apartment with the private elevator is becoming more interesting now. So as soon as I've got images of this, I'll be sharing them with everyone at Adams and Butler, who will hopefully share them on. This is possibly the most exciting thing happening in Scotland at the moment. But back to the Hebridean Sea Safari, if I may just pop you onto the video, I think perhaps Gio is going to ping that on. I want to take you just in a quick sailing onto our sea safari, so sit back and enjoy this. This will give you a little taster of what happens on the Hebridean Sea Safari.
spectacular, because I think a lot of people don't know or appreciate that hidden part of Scotland.
I think it really is into the wild, the glamping site. So we've put together, just as a suggestion, a 4-night, 5-day itinerary, a couple of nights in the castle, then we take them off in the GLENAPP boats. So by day, they're island hopping. Depending on the guest's interest, we may take them around some of the island whisky distilleries. If they were interested in whisky, if they're interested in the nature and the wildlife, we'll take them to the islands where they know they will experience that. So they're island hopping by day, they're dining under the stars at night. The sea safari comes with its own private chef, private butler again. The chef, how he does it, I don't know, because he's cooking out of a tent. He provides and he serves up the same quality of food from his tent that we would be serving out of the castle kitchen as well. So the customers are still drinking their champagne at their fine crystal glasses. They're still having dinner in the Villeroy and Bosch plates, but they're dining under the stars. I've been lucky enough to host a couple of safaris, not last year, year before. And I'm Scottish, as you can tell by my accent, but I've never experienced the big skies. People talk about the big skies, and over the west coast of Scotland and the islands, they were utterly spectacular. The dolphins that popped up on the video there, that was taken from my iPhone.
Wow.
That was by the side of the boat with customers one day. So as I say, it's a completely...
The birds as well, like, you know, you had eagles there, you had puffins.
Oh, the eagles live there. We discovered that after the first few trips as a family of eagles living there. You wake up in the morning and the sun rising, it's spectacular. And where the glamping site is, it's on a private area of the northern tip of the Isle of Jura. And in fact, it's a funny story, because when we were setting it all up, which is a very long story because it was quite challenging, but we met a lot of the locals. And then we met, what's the lady who does the, she makes things in telly, Kirsty, oh, you do know, she does the programme on television with Phil, the house programme, oh, what's her name? Anyway, she's a television presenter, and there she is waiting to get the boat over, and her family own most of Jura. So,
but we had Ard Finn on last week as well.
Right, okay, so we're working with Ard Finn as well for a backup bad weather option for the sea safari. Yeah,
because like, you know, they're so close to Islay as well. There's so much in that area that people don't know about.
It is, and you know, and we stop off at a little restaurant in Gia called the Boathouse. Tiny little place inside, really simple, but the food, the fish is literally jumped out the sea onto the plate. Yeah. And then we leave there and we pick up lobsters, take them back, the chef will then prepare them. That could end up as a starter or a canapé. So it really is a very unique into the wild experience.
And what's great about the webinar today is a lot of you, like, we don't have a Disney, you know, in our areas for children to be occupied, but we have real nature. Absolutely. Which is more interesting and entertaining for children because it lets them think for themselves. You know, it opens up a world.
There is actually Wi-Fi on the tip of the island. It's not a great signal, it's not 4G, but you can get it. But the families that have gone have actually said to us, can we not have it? They want the kids to go out and enjoy the real connection with nature and the wildlife.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jill.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. So just to remind everyone, if you registered for the event, you'll be sent a copy of the recording. We can also send out a copy of the video. But if you didn't register and just use the link, send an email to Rachel at adamsbutler.com. The other thing is, if ever any advisors bring their clients on as guests, we use Constant Contact. It doesn't take the email addresses. So you will have to send on the recordings to your clients yourselves, because we don't have access to the emails. So if anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat box. I know the Northern Ireland event is starting soon, so a lot of people probably will be flying off to that. Thanks a million to the presenters for joining us. It's lovely to feature places that perhaps a lot of you wouldn't have heard about. Thanks a million to Amanda in our office for organising it, and then Rachel for, you know, admitting people, and then of course Gio for organising the whole event. So thanks a million. As I said, anyone, any questions, you know, unmute yourselves. You can ask the presenters. But if not, we'll be sending on the recording. And Gio, next week we might possibly be going to Antarctica and the Arctic, isn't it?
Yes, we're looking for the African and polar regions connection. So northern Sweden, maybe Antarctica, and then some African connections there. It's
Yeah, we just did a virtual webinar for a corporate company in with the Northern Lights, and was that in Finland or Sweden? Finland.
Sweden, North Sweden. So he's going to be on.
North Sweden. And they also had a Kenyan connection. And then, of course, a lot of you, I don't know whether you know, but there is that connection between Elliman House in South Africa and the Antarctica. So we're hoping to do that next week if we can manage to get everyone together at the same time. So until then, once again, thank you, everyone. And Gio, maybe we leave it at that.
Yes, if anyone else has any more questions. Otherwise, I think we're at the end.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hi, Nellie.